Hello everyone, welcome back to Mass Transfer 1. This is the LMS initiative of the Department of Collegiate and Technical Education. So you all know that we have been discussing about the subject Mass Transfer 1. So in our Unit 2, we've been studying the humidification operations. So we already have learned important things about the topic in the first 5 sessions. So let us just recall the things that we learned in the fifth session. So before we start the sixth session. In the fifth session, we took up solving a few problems using the humidity chart. So we understood how we can estimate the different characteristics of vapor gas mixture. So using a humidity chart when two values are known. So that practice we had in the previous session. So for the current session, these are the things that we are going to discuss. So we are taking up the humidification equipments from this session. So one type of humidification equipment are cooling towers. So today we'll discuss the importance of cooling towers in industries and also we'll understand the different types of cooling towers. So coming to the humidification operation. So if you can go back and recall what is meant by humidification operation. So it is that operation in which there is a transfer between a fixed gas phase and a pure liquid phase. So it is basically an operation where a gas is contacted with liquid phase and it is mainly carried out to either increase or decrease the moisture content of the gases. So in various places, it is necessary to prepare air of required humidity and temperature. So that is achieved by bringing the air into contact with water under such conditions that the desired humidity is given to the given sample of air. So there are different kinds of equipments used for this purpose. So let us just discuss some of the equipments that are used in industries for humidification operation. So these are the important equipments. The first one is, and the most important one is water cooling towers. Then you have tray towers, you have spray chambers and also spray ponds. So in all these equipments, the basic process involved is same. That is, you are bringing the air into contact with water, but the conditions in each of this will depend upon whether it is a humidification operation or a dehumidification operation. And also the design are quite different according to the objective. So because in water cooling towers, the objective is to cool the water and not to humidify the air. So however, since this is being done by humidification of air, it is called as a humidification operation. So let us now take up the water cooling towers. In the first part, let us understand what is the importance of water cooling towers. So in chemical industries, we come across very heat exchange, a number of heat exchange equipments like condensers, evaporators, or coolers, chillers, etc. So in case where a fluid is to be cooled, we require a cooling media or a cooling liquid. So in most of the heat transfer operations, water is the low cost substance that can be used as a cooling fluid. So whenever water is used in a heat exchanger, due to exchange of heat, it becomes hot or warm. So that warm water comes out from the heat exchanger. So if it has to be recirculated to heat exchanger, it should be in cold condition. We cannot recirculate the warm water through the heat exchangers. So the water coming out of a heat exchanger has to be cooled and used again. So instead of disposing that water and using a fresh water, so it is always preferable to cool the same water and reuse it again as a cooling fluid in the heat exchange equipments. So that cooling of warm water is achieved by cooling towers. So cooling towers are basically that equipment in which water is cooled by contacting that hot or warm water coming out of a heat transfer operation with unsaturated air. So when the two are contacted, since the water is already in a high temperature, as soon as the contact is established, the water starts evaporating by consuming the sensible heat of water. So in that process, the water gets automatically cooled, and that cold water can be used again as a cooling fluid. So in that tower, due to the evaporation of water, the air gets humidified. So that is how it is a humidifying equipment. So this is again explaining the importance of cooling towers. So the water coming out of heat exchanger should not be discarded. So because the water source for the particular industry may not be abundant. So instead of discarding the water, you have to cool it again and recirculate it to the heat transfer operation. So that can be done using cooling towers. So the necessity of cooling tower in the industry is more. So the cooling towers are also required for providing air conditioning for tall buildings and also in some manufacturing processes. So where you require humidified or dehumidified air and also in the power generation sector. So these are some of the applications of cooling towers. So this figure shows the general structure of a cooling tower. So the cooling tower is basically a tall tower that consists of some kind of arrangement inside where which is suitable or necessary for bringing air into contact with water. The water coming out of a heat exchanger will be fed to a cooling tower from the top. So from where it is distributed evenly through the entire cross section of the tower by means of a distribution system, and this water then drops to bottom in the form of droplets. At the same time, the air is circulated through the tower by maintaining a draft of air. The air may enter from sides of the tower or it may enter from the bottom and flow in the upward direction. So in the both kind of airflow, the air is coming into contact with water in a required manner, whereby the air humidity increases and simultaneously the water gets cooled to lower temperature. The cold water is then collected at a reservoir at the bottom. So this water along with the makeup water can be pumped back to the heat exchange equipment. So that is how a cooling tower generally works. So this is the explanation on a cooling tower operation in general. In a water cooling tower, the water cooling is accomplished by bringing water into contact with unsaturated air under such conditions that the air is humidified and water is brought approximately to wet bulb temperature. So the cooling of water takes place as a result of the evaporation of water. So the hot water initially being at a temperature higher than the wet bulb temperature of air, so will be brought to contact with air inside the tower. So since the air is unsaturated, the evaporation takes place rapidly and the water gets cooled to a temperature approximately below the wet bulb temperature of air. So cooling towers are essentially the large diameter columns designed in such a way that there is a good gas liquid contact inside the tower. So it may be either containing some kind of fill or some kind of boards are arranged, so over which the water and air are coming into contact. So usually the warm water that is fed at the top of the tower will have to be distributed by spray nozzles or a distribution system like a grid of notched troughs and pipes. So you can have a perforated pipe at the top, or you can have a trough that contains notches, or you can have a spray nozzle. So whichever is more suitable can be used to distribute water. And distributing water in the form of droplets is very important. So in order to provide a maximum surface area of water to contact with the air. So air can be passed through the tower in two ways. So either by creating a natural convection. So in such a case, the cooling towers are called as natural draft cooling towers, and it may also be made to circulate within through the tower by using a gas moving equipment such as fans. So then they are called as mechanical draft cooling towers. So mechanical draft cooling towers are again of two types, such as forced draft cooling towers and induced draft cooling towers. So forced draft cooling towers are the one which have the fans at the bottom. These fans forces the air to enter the cooling tower from bottom and to flow in the upward direction through the tower. So whereas induced draft towers will have the fans situated at the top of the tower. So these fans induce an upward draft of air through the tower. So they may also be cross flow cooling towers in which the air flows in the horizontal direction with respect to vertical flow of water. So then if the air is flowing from bottom to top, then the water cooling tower is called the countercurrent induced draft cooling tower. So let us now see the construction and working of different types of cooling towers. So as I mentioned previously, the water cooling towers are of two types. One is the natural draft cooling tower, other one is mechanical draft cooling tower. So you already understood what is a natural draft cooling tower and a mechanical draft cooling tower. So natural draft cooling towers are the one in which the flow of air through the tower occurs naturally, that is by natural convection. So here we are not using any kind of equipment to create a draft of air through the tower. So there are different designs of natural draft cooling towers. So but the most important types are the atmospheric type and the natural draft chimney type as shown in the diagrams. So in the atmospheric type, there is a cross flow of air. This air enters from one side and it leaves from the other side. So the flow of air is essentially across the tower rather than up through the tower. Okay, so this is the atmospheric type of natural draft cooling tower. So this is shown schematically in the figure. The circulation of air through the tower, as I said earlier, is in horizontal direction rather than up through in the vertical direction. So as I explained earlier, the water will enter from the top of the tower. It has to be distributed uniformly. So that is done by some kind of distribution system located at the top of the tower. The water here is made to fall over the baffles of various types, and the type that are shown in the figure are very common. It contains wooden or flat boards of about 1 by 6 inch cross section that are laid with small gaps between them. The water is distributed over the tower by means of some kind of troughs and pipes, as I explained earlier in the previous slide. Here, lowers are provided on the sides of the tower to prevent the loss of water in the form of droplets. That is, air flowing out of the tower should not carry away the water as a spray. So, to prevent that loss of water, the lowers are provided along the sides of the tower. The water that is entering from the top is allowed to get distributed through the tower. Air, as it flows across the tower, comes in contact with the water. So, due to the contact, and since the air is unsaturated one, then the humidification of air takes place and the water gets cooled before it reaches to the bottom of the tower. The cooled water is collected at the bottom basin from where it can be taken to the use for which it is meant. So this is the second type of natural draft cooling tower. So it is also called as a chimney type cooling tower because of its design. The upper part of the tower just resembles the shape of a chimney. So that is schematically shown in this figure. So this tower operates on a fact that the air gets warmed by water and this warming of air automatically produces an upward draft. The sides of the tower are completely enclosed here except for small inlet that is provided at the bottom for taking the air inside the tower. So when the air enters the tower, due to the contact with water, it gets warm or it gets heated. That hot air being reduced in its density will displace the cold air outside the tower. So that is how the natural draft from bottom to top is created automatically in this kind of towers. The grid material which distributes the water are confined to relatively short section in the lower part of the tower and most of the structure given to this kind of tower is necessary to produce an upward draft of air. So the shape of chimney and the other constructions are especially designed to make the air to flow from bottom to top by natural convection. So that is natural draft cooling towers for you. So let us now understand the mechanical draft cooling towers. As I explained earlier, the mechanical draft cooling towers employ fans for creating a draft of air through the tower. So the circulation of air through these kind of towers is created artificially by the use of fans. So there are several designs of mechanical draft cooling towers as shown in the figure. So the first one shows a simple design of forced draft cooling tower. So you all know what is a forced draft and a induced draft tower. In case of forced draft cooling tower, the fans are situated at the bottom of the tower. This forces the air into the tower. Whereas the countercurrent induced draft tower, the countercurrent tower means the flow of air will be in opposite direction with respect to that of flow of water. So if the air is flowing from bottom to top, then it is a countercurrent draft tower. Figure B shows the countercurrent induced draft tower. So here you can see that the fan is fixed at the top, so which induces an upward flow of air, that is from the air inlet from the bottom to the air outlet at the top. So there are other improved designs such as cross flow induced draft tower, so which give a better air and water contact and also the better performance. So here the air is flowing across the tower So just like the atmospheric type of natural draft tower. So this is an induced draft tower because the fans are fixed or situated at the top of the tower. So one more type of tower that is operating on a mechanical draft cooling tower principle is the wet or dry tower. So in this case, the water is distributed at the top in such a way that it first flows through a set of pipes. So the pipes will become warm, then the air entering at that point gets warmed without having come into contact with water. So there the indirect contact is established, whereas in the lower part and the middle part, the air is coming into direct contact with water. So hence it is also called as wet and dry tower. So the cooling of water occurs in both dry manner and also in a wet manner. That is, it is coming into direct contact with air means the air is getting wet with the water. So it is called as wet tower. So in the upper part, the air is not in a direct contact with water. So it is just flowing over the tubes through which the water is flowing. So even though air is getting warm in that location, it is not getting humidified. So this kind of tower also gives you a better cooling operation for the water. So just like all other designs, the cold water will be collected at the bottom reservoir from where it can be taken to the process where cooling is required using water. So that is all about the cooling towers. So this is one picture showing a huge cooling tower. It is a natural draft cooling tower. So natural draft cooling towers are usually preferred ones in places where the humidity is very low. So apart from that, mechanical draft towers are the most preferred ones because in that the movement of air is almost much better compared to the natural draft cooling towers. And among the forced draft and induced draft towers also, the induced draft towers are the better designs because in forced draft type there is a possibility of the humid air getting recirculated back into tower. So after the discharge of air from the top, so since the discharge velocities are low, the humidified air may be again entering the fan intake. So in that way, the recirculation of the humid air is a possibility in case of forced draft towers. So this can be overcome by having an induced draft design where since the fans are situated at the top, they induce a upward flow of gas, that is air, and the air is discharged into the atmosphere with a high velocity. So then the recirculation of air after it has got humidified is quite avoided, quite less in case of induced draft towers. So that is the discussion on the different types of cooling towers. So the e-links that will be given to you along with the presentation will contain some YouTube videos explaining or showing you the working of the various kinds of cooling towers. Do watch them whenever you're using these presentations. So MCQs on the cooling towers. The temperature of water cooled in a cooling tower always is it always less than the wet bulb temperature of the entering air? Is it always equal to? It has to be equal to the wet bulb temperature of the entering air, or is it always greater than the wet bulb temperature of the entering air, or is it always equal to dry bulb temperature of the entering air? So the answer for this question is the option C. So since the water that is entering a cooling tower is always a warm water, so its temperature will always be greater than the wet bulb temperature of entering air. So if it is equal to wet bulb temperature of the entering air, or if it is less than that temperature, then the cooling cannot be accomplished in a cooling tower. So it has to be always at a temperature greater than the wet bulb temperature of the air. So hence the third option C is the right option for the question here. The cooling effect in a cooling tower can be increased by which of these methods? Either by lowering the barometric pressure, is it by reducing the humidity of entering air, or is it done increasing by increasing the air velocity over the wet surface, or is it option D where all of the above is required or can be used to increase the effect of cooling in a cooling tower? So the correct option is the option D. So we can increase the cooling effect in a cooling tower by all these methods. So we can reduce the barometric pressure, or we can reduce the humidity of the entering air. So whereby we can increase the amount of water getting evaporated into the air, and thereby reducing the temperature to still lower values for the given for the water. So then the air velocity, if it is increased, then also the cooling effect given to water will be higher. So when the temperature and humidity of air is low, we usually use the natural draft cooling towers, because so that is the place where the natural draft cooling tower can give you better performance in cooling the warm water. So otherwise, the forced draft towers are the preferred designs. The equipment frequently used in adiabatic humidification and cooling operation with recirculating liquid is either the natural draft cooling tower, is it the forced draft cooling tower, is it the spray chamber, or is it the none of these option? So adiabatic humidification and cooling operation is carried out in a specially designed humidification equipment. So cooling towers are generally meant for only to cool the water. So they are not basically the humidification equipments. The purpose of cooling towers is to cool the water. So the required kind of humidification cannot be achieved for given for the air inside a cooling tower. So that is the spray chamber can be designed to carry out an adiabatic operation. So where the sample of air can be given a required degree of humidification or dehumidification under carefully controlled conditions. So option C is the right answer for the given question. What is meant by water cooling in industries? So the process of increasing the moisture of air, the process of cooling hot air by contact with water, contact of air and water to cool down the warm water, the process of warming air by contacting with water. So as I explained earlier, cooling down the warm water is the basic requirement of a cooling tower. So the option C is the right option for this question. So with that, let us end the session number 6. Now we are left with the last session, session number 7. So where we are going to discuss the industrial humidification equipments like a spray chamber or a spray tower. So let us again meet in the next session. Till then, take care. See you.